So how's everybody doing on this rainy day? I know you probably didn't want to leave your office and come out and get away from your desk, but I'm glad you all did. I hope that you find I'm sure you'll find some valuable information from Jen's presentation. Just want to thank you for coming out and supporting professional development, and we're going to continue to offer these training sessions, but we do need everybody's participation. So we've got a few more training classes. The next one that Jen will do is an advanced training for Excel, which hopefully it will build on this one. So I encourage you, if you're already here, that you come to the next one that Jen's going to do for the advanced Excel users. Just a little bit of housekeeping rules. If you've been to one of these before, you already know this, but I'm going to repeat myself again. There are not cameras, but microphones in all rooms, both here, Pittsboro, and Harnett, because we are live streaming into those campuses. So please keep your voices down. Please hold comments, questions till the end or when asked, because we will be picking you up. We are recording this to the Life-Size website so that anyone that couldn't be in attendance today can go to the HR Blackboard site, click the professional development link, look for Fall Professional Development, and there will be a video up for beginning Excel users. Just keep in mind of your voices and what you may say to your participant next to you may be picked up and recorded. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Jen so we can get ready for some Excel tips, techniques, and hopefully make our lives all easier. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Jen MDE. I am a Student Learning System Administrator for Blackboard, and I do a lot of other things, and I also do a lot of office work, so I kind of know a bit of tips and things like that. What software version are you guys most comfortable with? Got 2007 and we have 2010 up here, but there's also 360 out there that just came out. We got mostly show of hands 207, 2010. Okay, that's cool. I have a handout here that basically describes the ribbons. It is for 2007, but they didn't really change all that much from 2010, except for one little caveat, which I will show you in just a second. I think this is very neat. It kind of tells you what's in every ribbon aspect, because I remember when they changed over from just having the long menus, it was very confusing. So how I think I'm going to start out is just go over kind of the layout of the spreadsheet and sort of the toolbars, and we'll get some names and some technical information. One of my favorite parts about being a geek is using geek language, so I'm going to teach you some geek words, everybody. All right, so in 2007, they had this button up here that is no longer here. It was like a little office button. It looked like this kind of. And that has been replaced by the file button. So that's where you're doing all your saving and your printing, everything like that. You can publish too. I'm gonna go back. Okay, so after we get that, then this area up here is called the Quick Access Toolbar. And if you notice, there's not a print button, but a lot of people find it really helpful if you put a print button here, so you have your save and your undo. I'm always using the undo button. That's your friend. If you guys like keyboard shortcuts, the undo is Control+Z. I use that quite often. So if I wanted to put up a printer button up here, all you would do is go to this little drop-down menu up on the Quick Access Toolbar. And for printing, you can just click this little checkbox and it will show up the print preview, sorry. More commands, and this brings up a whole big menu of things that you can put up on that Quick Access Toolbar that you'd like to use. You can do cut, copy, center, borders, pretty much anything that you use frequently you can put up there. And all you would do is just find what you're looking for. I'll do redo, add it, sorry. So that's not already in there. And we'll click OK. And that will populate up here on our little toolbar. So after that, these things up here, these are called tabs. Each one of these are the tabs. Now these long, elongated areas, the whole thing is what Microsoft decided to call the ribbon. So all of this is inclusive in the ribbon. The name box. Now, that to me sounds ambiguous. I'm like, okay. You'll have instructions to say, hey, the name box shows you where the cell where you're currently located at. That's this little guy right here. And you can type where you want to go if you don't feel like clicking, but clicking's easier. You can see how it changes wherever you're at. That name box does. The active cell is this little black border here. The work bar status is down here, so they're ready. And if you're running any macros, I don't know if you guys are familiar with macros, if you have any errors or macros or anything that's going wrong with your macros, it'll show up there. Worksheet tabs. I have a couple down here. The blank one, the unedited, the grade book, and the data entry tab. And those are pretty easy to rename and even color code if you like to do that. The dialog box launcher. If you're under a tab, and like here's the formatting bar, but there's not a, there's something I want to do that's not here. Click this little area right here and it will bring up the full dialog box. Formula bar. Everybody loves the formula bar, right? If you want to get some functions, you can click the little FX right here, and that will bring up a whole list, and you can start searching. Or pretty much anything right there are the usual ones, but there's a whole lot more than that. Okay. Yes?
Do you have something like just a picture of this where you're calling out names and I don't know what you're referring to? I mean, you're pointing and
Right.
I make a note, and then I don't see what you're pointing to.
I can show you. I have one that I can show you in my office. I can send you a picture of it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I was gonna like photocopy it, and then I was like, ah, they won't care.
Thank you very much.
But that's pretty much just the orientation of what I wanted to show you. I'll go into now the difference in cut, copy, and paste and the different types we have. This is kind of a sheet that I've already messed with a little bit, and I've done some different things here. What I've done here is called conditional formatting, and you see how these little dots have different colors? Well, it corresponds to the number here. And I've basically set up some rules that say, okay, if this student has a grade of 80, then they're good to go. 80 or higher, they're fine. Now, if they have a grade of 70 up to, I believe it is 60, then we want to give them a yellow button because they're kind of in hot water. And then your red is basically saying, oh, yeah, we need to work on that. We're failing there. Conditional formatting, I'll go in more to that into the advanced, but I just kind of wanted to explain what these buttons were here. They're not clickable or anything. They are fully depending on the conditional formatting. So if I have James here, and I selected these couple names, and I want to take them over to a different sheet. I have the options of, maybe, my mouse button isn't working. I'll go over here. You can copy, and the keyboard shortcut for copy, everybody, is Control-C. When you copy, it lets you know what you've copied by this little trail of ants, but it's also called the active box. I'll take it over to the blank. Click the cell where you want to place it in, and you have several different options here. You have just a regular paste, which is going to paste the text exactly as it was over in the other sheet, and that's the first button I have here. Then you have the values, which is simply just The text itself, like if you have numbers, ones and twos, it's not going to have any sort of formatting to come over. So pretty much pick whatever you want. And that's your paste function here. To get out of an active cell, you can hit escape. And that will take away the little trail of ants. So I have a question for you. True or false? When you are putting in when you're putting in formulas, how does the formulas calculate? If you put it in the way that you're stating the formula, like if I say 2 + 3 × 8, how's it going to calculate? Does it follow the order of operations or no? Anybody? It actually does follow the order of operations, so anytime you're doing a formula, it doesn't follow the way that you put it in. It actually does order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Let's all remember that. Let's see. How can I see all my formulas at once? So if we're looking at this sheet, and I'm trying to think, okay, I know some of these are formulas. I know some of this is just plain text that I have entered. How do I know that? Then you can actually use the keyboard shortcut of Control and the tilde button, and that's up above your tab. And that will bring anything that has a formula, it shows for you. It shows all your formulas. And you will take that off as well by using the same function, the Control and the tilde button. All right. So, timestamps. Or do you guys want to do, are you guys familiar with auto calculations and AutoSum? You're familiar with that? Okay, cool. So, the thing that I would like to show you next is, let's say we have a form, and it's simply a form that we want to give somebody to do data entry. We don't want them messing with our formulas because our formulas are perfect, and if they click in the formula box, it's just going to go awry. So I just want you to put in some data, and I'm going to show you how you can make that possible. What you need to do is select all of the areas that only data is going to be entered. So on this place, we have tests 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We'll select that. All the fields will be entered into. Plus, down here we have an area for the date and time updated. And we're going to allow them to do input into there too. So hold down the Control key and get all these values. The next step is to click Format Cells. And from this tab, we're actually going to go to the Protection tab. And currently it says that these cells are locked. And that's referring to pretty much every sheet in this cell is already locked. We're going to take that off. We don't want that to be locked anymore. Click OK. So now that we have our area selected, we're going to go to, I think it's Review. Yes. Protect the worksheet. So we're basically saying we want only the, when you first do it, it's going to have both of these selected. So you'll uncheck selected locked cells, and you'll only have select unlocked cells. We've unlocked these cells, and now we're saying we want to allow users of this worksheet to only click in the unlocked cells. And click OK. Now you notice that I can't select anything that's not in one of these cells. But my favorite part about this is that if I'm doing a lot of data entry, then I can just simply now go tab, tab, tab all over, and it's not going to go to where the areas that I have marked and said you can't enter those. So I thought that was pretty neat. We also have down here, you may be familiar with the function that we have like a date function. And basically this date function here equals today in parentheses says that anytime that we open this sheet, this date is going to be the date that it is. Like if I open this sheet tomorrow, it's going to show up the 11th and it's going to replace the 10th or the day that we last opened it. If you want to have like a log of some kind, then it's easier to go down here and basically have a place for that. But you have a keyboard shortcut that you can use to enter those. And the keyboard shortcut for the date is Control and semicolon. And the keyboard shortcut for the time is Control Shift semicolon. Those dates and times down there will never change, but this one will because it is a formula. So, another thing I wanted to show you is this person has entered all these numbers that should be right across these columns. They're supposed to be the entry for test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4, test 5, but they all entered in one column. And this can happen too if like you're first thinking, I'm only gonna need one column, and then you realize, well, this data is a little bit longer than it needs to be, or I want to do some calculations. So all you'll do to separate these data out, instead of erasing it, and starting over, is select the columns.
Yeah.
I said, okay, Lou, go to home, I think it is. Yep. And data, there we go. And it's this text to columns area. You'll have it with this first option here. And it shows a preview of the selected data. Now, since ours are separated by comma, we're going to choose comma, but most often you're going to see that tabs are pre-selected and commas are not selected. You'll definitely want to make sure commas are selected, and you'll know that it'll be right because it has, see how this changes when I take off colon, is those are still in the same area, but once you put on the comma, those change. And it puts in the values for those columns. Another thing about auto sum is if you just click in the cell and you do auto sum, it's going to do whatever's above it. However, if you want to do an auto sum, then sorry about that. If you want to do an auto my formula is broken because I don't know where to put my mouse. If you want to do an auto sum or an average of a different column, then you'll go ahead and drag the direction average, and that populated my average for me. This little area right here, this little box, is called the fill handle. I've got my hand on this little black button, this little plus, and if you hit it and then you drag, this smart board's a little funky. The fill handle, if you'll pull it down, then it will copy all your formulas, so that you won't have to do a bunch of copy paste. And it works both ways. You can go up, you can go down, you can go all around. And with that, we can still do our total points. We'll do another autofill. And that populated my average for me. just like that. I've done a lot of math that I would have had done otherwise by hand. And nobody wants that. I'm not great at math, believe me. Another thing about this sheet that most people find helpful is if you'll notice that this portion, I'm sorry? This top portion stays the same. I ain't got a whole lot of entries, but you can see how this pane is frozen. And that's really simple to do too. You'll click to the area where you would like the freeze pane to be upwards of. Like if I want the freezing to start here on this above level. And then we go to get the view. Yes, view and freeze panes. And now it will not move anymore. See, and that green. So, I've showed you guys a bunch of little tricks, and I went kind of fast, but I would like to know what you would like to know.
Can you go back to that, the original, the first spreadsheet I think you had where you had that conditional formatting where you made it turn to the different colors?
Yes.
How did you do that?
All right, can do. So, the area that we want to be conditionally formatted, let's say, you see how these zeros are red?
I mean,
If we want, see the average? The area that you want conditionally formatted, you'll select.
my spread is more thin, and I'm not saying what people call saying.
It's under Home,
If there's somebody you can rearrange
conditional
their.
formatting. There's different ways that you can do it. I did an icon set here. There's also doing the new rule. And here's where it gets really fun. There are various ways for you to put these rules in. My favorite way is actually to do the first one because I feel like I have a little bit more control over it. You can do different colored scales. Normally I'll do a 3.
Right, and the fact that they're males, even better.
And it's going to ask you the median, midpoint, and maximum.
I'm saying,
Here, we're not going to use lowest values because we're basing this sort of on a 100-point grade scale. And we'll actually want to choose numbers. So the minimum number is a 0. The midpoint, I would say, is probably about a 70. And then the high value is 100.
partially, I need to be in the hospital so many days during the week.
And there you have a second conditional formatting. To change those, like if I don't want to see those dots anymore because my boss told me they were ugly, I'm going to go over here,
And they should
go to Manage Rules. And you see that I have 3 different sets of rules.
during registration, they can, registrants can make it
This.
for time period.
Delete rules.
And then they
Not to
come here too and go.
Anything else? Anybody?
We'll be a good team.
This is, what I've done here is a merge and center. We use those quite a bit. If I wanted,
Makes my day more pleasurable for you.
I'll take these last 3 columns down here and I want to have them merged over the center. There's a merge and center button. Right there. And it will move that information. Like so. Something else is the find and select. Go to. So we gave those kids a 0, and we feel kind of bad about it. You know, we messed up, or we weren't there for a day. We want to give them a 10 at least or something, right?
Cover it with what that
Select your area. Well, that's not gonna allow me to do what I thought I was gonna do. Generally, you can type numbers in there and it will find and replace it, but that's not happening today.
with a Netflix, like 2 of them.
So we're all Excel experts now. Yay! I've done my job.
Can you go over on the graph making some?
Sure. So let's make a graph of.
Usually like when he visit y'all, and he comes out that front part, he knows anyone.
He used to.
He used to, yeah. I don't care.
I'll find it right now.
Still give me such a weird face. I don't know why. I think it's because they were beginning.
There we go. So here's your different, under insert, you have your different types of graphs, pie charts, line graphs, bar graphs. And if you click this dialog expansion box, it's gonna give you pretty much any graph you could ever want. So, go ahead and just put one in there. I have no idea what that means. That's not really good data to show with a graph. That's where they are. If I had some better data to show you a graph with, that would be.
Hair
For that.
just dropped today. I don't even look no more. But I didn't.
So could you show them how to change, like, the variable data within a chart? So where you have your, where it's showing in your legend, where you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, can you show them how to change the legend to say student scores or
Yeah.
however it is that, so I think that's important. It's easy to get to the graph part, but it's how do you customize it for your information?
Let's actually do this.
It's running like, I mean, if I'm hoping that's what happened on my part.
Test sample, that's. So the colors of the tests here, like if we change that, then these should be the students. And I think I can, okay. All right,
Did that until it, you know.
I know what we're gonna do now. There's some better data. You basically just have to click on the area and you can name it whatever you want. You can delete certain tasks like if you don't want to do. He dropped, so we'll just. Yeah. Sorry. If y'all have any questions, I think I'm done.
Do you want to ask if anyone on the other campuses have
That's
questions?
fine, yeah. Does anybody else on the other campus have any questions?
Anybody in the room? Questions? Yes.
Can I ask you to do something totally different, because this is something I would never use like this. But I use Excel for keeping track of stories I've written and sent out. Who did I send them to? How long were the stories? Did they have photos to go with them? I know what newspapers they went to. So it would be totally set up different and just aggregated differently. So it's more, I need it for keeping data and then being able to refer back to it. When did a story about something run in 2012? That type of thing.
I actually have, I don't do it in Excel. I do it in Google Docs, a offsite proctoring sheet where I keep a list of students and tests that they were taking and offsite locations, a bunch of user data that doesn't necessarily have any calculations. It doesn't have any calculations whatsoever. And it depends on like how are you wanting to show that data. Is there something like, okay, this is pending or this is current, and then you move the fields up and down?
Sometimes, but sometimes there is like how many inches of copy ran on like the Innovation Center in 2012, that type of thing, rather than just that.
So filtering.
Every story.
Is that kind of like what you're talking about?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So like if we wanted to see everybody that had a 0 in this test, we would click up here and go to sort and filter.
I saw her saying that one individual was on your school, but she looked at the whole picture, you know.
Oh my God, I'm here to do it. It's easier.
But they did work, and I felt like she would do that. She would treat it like a whole person, not just isolate it into, you know, let's get you a job. You know, I felt like she would really consider anything else that's hindering.
And once we get this little drop down menu, then you're able to kind of check off what you would and would not want to see. Like I only want to see the zeros. So I will click the zeros and that will filter my searches so that I'm only showing zeros.
All the rest of your data disappears.
Yes. Well, it's not
That'd be hard
gone.
to get done.
Yeah, it's just living somewhere else for a little bit. It's still there, and all you really need to do is to click, you can click the filter button again and select all, and okay, and that will bring your
Not keep
information back. That's how you do a filter.
Something like that is better not done in Excel, it's better done in Google Drive.
I just do it in Google Docs because I'm able to share that document. Like any of the instructors can go and look at it and see, hey, this student hasn't submitted a proctor form yet, or they have, it's been sent. And that was my purpose for doing it in a Google Doc, is shareability. People can look at it at any time. They also have, which Excel doesn't have, a place where I can click into this cell. And let's say, okay, I want to make a note that he has a 0. Then I can actually make a note of he had a 0, he was sick, in the hospital or something like that. And when I hover over it, I can see that that note was there. And you can continue to do threads on that particular cell. It would be a neat feature if Excel had it, and it doesn't. Excel, the thing about Google Docs and doing a spreadsheet is that they don't have as powerful formulas, and they don't have as much as the formatting. You can't really do charts as much with that. So if you're just looking for something to filter your data with, then I would definitely do it in a Google Doc spreadsheet.
So Excel is actually more for numeric data?
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's more numbers.
Can you show them how to sort data? So if they're wanting to sort by the lowest number of test score 1.
Yeah.
Can you show them how to sort?
It's almost like a filter, but not quite. Instead of taking away your data and just showing you the zeros, it's going to put it in numerical order. So from largest to smallest.
Anybody put it in that. I could do the exact same job and do a Durham Tech. I'm still in training. Because I think the Durham policy
You'll go over here to filter and sort, and you have the option of smallest to largest. And it's sorted that we have a 0 up here and it goes all the way down to a 96.
But when you did that, the names didn't change.
This is the exact
You got
same.
different people's
Yeah.
scores with different people.
They might be different.
There we go. Make sure you expand the section.
Okay, so what did you do to keep the scores with the names?
I went and I choose the column first that I'm looking at. And then it's gonna ask you if you want to expand the section. And that's, you do wanna expand the section.
Okay.
I like Word a lot better. Especially with formatting and fonts and things like that. I know a lot of tips and tricks in it. Sounds a little bit more complicated. Anything else?
So what about grouping and ungrouping?
As far as data?
Yes. So grouping data, and that may be something you're going to cover in the advanced class.
I'd rather do that than advanced. It's
Okay.
kind of.
Anybody got any other questions? Anything else you'd like to see? Think about in your job and how, is there something that you've encountered where you were like, man, if I only knew a trick, I know there's got to be an easier way, but I just don't know how to do it. This is the time for you to ask, because I know if you're like me, you've sat there and you've thought, I know I'm doing this the hard way, but it's the only time I have right now to get it done. I'll think about it, or I'll ask someone later when I have time to research it. And then sometimes you don't get back to that point, or you don't have that time in the data to stop and think.
I know some people have asked, and it's kind of simple once you, some people have trouble inserting cells. They wait and
Okay.
enter down, whereas
That's pretty. So if I wanted to put another student in between James Brown, I'm actually gonna click on the number so that you have the whole thing highlighted, because if you just click here, then it's a little bit, it doesn't work. You'll go to insert. And then there's insert. And you'll just click that button. You can also click the down arrow, and that will give you more options. You can do cells or sheets or sheet rows. But the main thing is to click in the cell, because wherever you put your marker, this cell is gonna go above.
It was just perfect, up until that little point, and then it just.
That's the same way with Google Docs, by the way.
Can you show them shortcuts as to how to get to the very bottom of, so if you have a long group of data in, say, column A, and you want to get to the very bottom without having to scroll all the way down, what's the shortcut for that?
It's in per page down. Depends on where your cursor's at. Like if I want to go to the, I'm going to the very last page, it's page down, and that's over on your keyboard.
This is interview skills, one to me.
Click home to go over. The end and the home are referring to rows. Whatever row you're in, it's going to take you either to the end of that row or it's going to take you to the front of that row. Page up and page down move you this way as far as the whole page. Something else with printing is when you're trying to print spreadsheets, making sure that the grid lines, like if some of my data, this doesn't apply because this is all on one page, but if it shows grid lines in the print preview and your data is outside the grid lines, then it will not print on the same page or print at all. We like our things to print. And those are the grid lines. So if I expand that just a little bit, that's where it's going to print. But if I had my grid line, here, then only this information, test column 5, is going to show up on our printing page. So that's how you can kind of tell what's going where.
I don't know if this would be your next class, but some people also have questions about color coding the labels down the bottom.
Oh, those are fun. Yes. The easiest way to do that is right-click on the tab, and you can go to tab color and make it whatever color you want. That's fun. I'm a fan of color coding. It doesn't show up until you click on one of the other tabs. And again, you just right-click,
So many.
tab color, and make it happy little purple. And it will show up once you clicked off of it.
Jim, what about the way to expand the columns to fit automatically?
The E, okay.
If we have a really long name over here, if you will, it's always in the gray area where you have to put your cursor. To see this double-headed arrow, you'll double click that double-headed arrow.
It was me delivered.
Make sure it's on that column, double click the double-headed arrow, and it will go to a maximum width just enough so that everything is showing up in the column and not overlapping any, or not giving you, like when you do formulas, if the numbers are not big enough, you'll get these little signs here, and that just simply means there's more numbers than you're allowing space for. And you simply fix that by pulling it over. Oh yeah. When I'm copying a whole sheet, instead of trying to, do like this, make sure I get everything, it's really easy to just click this little box up there, and that will get everything that's in your sheet rather than trying to scroll down and losing half your page. And then you can copy and paste as you please.
When you do that,
Mm-hmm.
It highlighted the blank page also.
Yeah, these little dots right here are just telling me what's gonna be cut off when I'm printing.
Okay, so it won't print the blank page.
Not at all, no, these are just guidelines to let you know. Yeah, and we could have something over in a cell here, and by